Hey everybody, this video is just going to be a quick little demo of a level 3 HATEOAS, HATEOAS, kind of weird to say it that way, I suppose, but I wanted to show you a open source GitHub project I came across. I was kind of looking for ways that we could demonstrate this without, spending a whole lot of time building up a fairly large framework to set things up just for the purposes of the demo. And lo and behold, there is one that exists, which is the delightful thing about the internet and the open source movement. So what I'm showing you here, if you haven't, seen this enough already, this is basically level 3 of our RESTful model that we're going to be using, where everything is kind of governed by our HTTP requests and responses. The verbs, the data coming back are going to be links and things of that nature. Basically, everything is data driven and self-contained in these packets. So hopefully by this point you understand the difference between kind of what we think as traditional REST, or we just kind of send slugs and we get some data back from that, from some kind of an endpoint, and really using the power of these headers and the packets that come with them to send back links, to send back routing procedures and things of that nature. So a couple of things. I am going to link to this project just so you can check it out. Now, this is a Java project running Spring Boot, so basically everything is kind of going to be in Java if you want to step through the code. It will work just fine. Excuse me, it will work just fine running with Maven, so we don't have to, tweak anything. I don't think it's fully implemented, and looking at the last check-in was 3 years ago, so I doubt it's going to be updated in the future. But the, kind of neat thing is that it works and it shows what we want. So I have cloned this down to a brand new Google Cloud instance. It's a little beefier one just so that it runs faster. I've also installed this yet another REST client extension into my Chrome. Now, we haven't really touched too much on using basically these kind of quick little RESTful applications to help test things out. The most common one that you probably have heard of is Postman, and that has removed its Chrome extension from the store and wants you to sign up and use their proprietary application. I know there's a handful of others out there. And honestly, for this, I just wanted something quick and easy and not requiring a sign up. So I pulled down this one and just kind of give you an idea of what we can do with these things. Basically, just send an HTTP packet to some destination. So to kind of go with our old examples, HTTPS, ICANN has dadjoke.com. I have access to all my HTTP verbs here. I'm going to do a GET call, so I'll just leave it as is, send a request, and I'm going to get back the entire page in here. Now, okay, that's basically going to the website and looking at the source, right? But we can add headers in here too, and I can just say, accept JSON, set cache control, all this kind of fun stuff. So I'm going to add on accept JSON. This is now part of our header that we're sending, and I'm going to send the request. And now basically I get back what you see when you would run curl on the command line with the only accept, application/JSON. So here's my joke of the day, here's my status, here's the ID of that, and so on and so forth. So very nice and easy for testing out endpoints, testing out, data going in, going out. Again, this isn't just for get. I could do a put, I could do a patch, a delete. So all of these verbs that we've kind of come to know and love at this point. Also, if you're going through and building up a nice big Rails application or a React application where you are publishing endpoints, definitely useful for that kind of thing. So I have this instance up and running here. Now, I have already cloned down this repo. If we look inside, it's basically got some Maven related commands here, source code, target code, and if we pop through here, our source is basically just, again, a Spring Boot application. So it's going to be a web-driven application. And if you haven't played with Spring Boot, that's fine. Basically, the entirety of this application is just to respond to RESTful calls with this level 3 designation. So I'm going to go ahead and start this up. And their documentation here is if you're using the Maven wrapper, run it this way. If you have Maven installed, run it this way. I'm going to run it this way because I installed Maven on my server. So basically, I just need to do mvn clean and spring boot :run. So this is going to basically kick everything off, build the application, launch it. Now it's going to wait for me to try to access it. And by default, it's going to run on port 8080, which fortunately, I don't have to really tweak anything with my firewall, at least currently. Your mileage may vary if your UFW isn't set up to allow that, if your Google Cloud instance or Google Cloud Firewall is not set to allow that. But basically, it's running here. We can now go to its website. So I'm going to grab the IP address here and port 8080. This is not going to work because there is no route for the home page that's defined here, which is fine, right? But we can put it in to, let's refresh this. So this is HTTP, and I can do a GET request. I should also get an error message here. Oops, I forgot the port 8080. Okay, so 404, basically, again, no route found here. But there is a route for /employees, and I know this just because I've gone through the documentation a bit. So if you scroll down here, basically it's looking for you to talk to the employees endpoint. So I could do a generic call to employees, get a list of all the employees with follow-up links from that, or I can look at specific employees as well. So if I run get here, I'm going to get a list of employees from this endpoint. So ID 1, so they're all Tolkien related. So Bilbo Baggins, he's a burglar. Here are some follow-up links that my application would follow if I wanted to, right? So if I was building a web page based on this data, I would look for the links property of this particular packet and then build up a list of links that way. So if I want a list of employees, I go here. If I want this particular employee, go here. And then because this is the generic list, it's going to list out everybody here. And so if I were to go to /employees, I'm going to get, oops, an error because again, this isn't something that's being published for the web. It's purely a data representation. So if I were to do employees /1 and I do a GET request, I'm going to get information about this employee, again with some follow back links. I could go to employee 2. And we have Frodo Aggins because apparently he forgot the B. I could try going to employees 3 and oops, nobody exists. Okay, so we don't have an error message to handle that. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Basically, everything is being self-contained in this RESTful response packet. Now, this is where the demo breaks down because I think it was intended to be a bit more and it wasn't fully implemented. So if I were to change this to a post and I say I wanted to add a new employee, I'm going to get a 400 bad request. So basically, I'm trying to run the HTTP post verb, which means I'm sending data to it. And okay, it's not handled correctly. Basically, 400 error, so we have something wrong, application level. It's a bad request. Required request body is missing then a whole bunch of information about the employee. Okay, the intent here would be to put in a JSON object specifically matching this employee so that I can very easily add them in, right? What is their employee ID? What's their name? What's their role? All of that fun stuff. And then I would post that to the server and it would accept it and add that user to the database. And we're going to have the same, put is not allowed, I guess. I was going to say it's the same, but basically they're blocking put requests, but posts are fine. I wonder if we can delete. I didn't try this one. So let's try deleting employees 2. Response data. Okay, so we got an okay here, so that's good. Now let's try to do a get on employees 2. Ah, good, so the delete works. Basically, I kind of scrubbed through the code a little bit and I was looking for the proper representation of the post request and I couldn't really come across it. But kind of the goal here is really to demonstrate this RESTful topic, not prove out this random open source application that I found. But if you were to be building up a RESTful application and you want to follow this particular paradigm where everything is embedded in the data, This is kind of a nice starting point for that. Basically, everything is going to be tracked by objects. Everything is going to be um, self-linking. And if there is any changes in the underlying data model, hopefully that doesn't really break too much on the client side and vice versa. We're nicely decoupling things. Okay, so a few new things here. We have our yet another REST client extension. Again, you don't strictly need this, but it can be very helpful for testing out these types of RESTful applications. Also, I mean, if you're not doing, this particular thing with REST, but maybe you're building up IoT applications where you have devices sending data back and forth via RESTful calls, this type of thing could be helpful as well. We also have this particular implementation here and the idea that we are basically building up linking back and forth, sending based on resources and verbs and all that. So hope this was interesting for you. I find it, kind of an interesting um, use of REST. Obviously, this is not what a lot of people really think of when they talk REST, but this is the actual formal definition of it. So hope you enjoyed that. I like these little demos. So yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.